Well, isn't what I don't understand is people like Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy needs to be kicked square in his butt. This bill is a misnomer by any stretch of the imagination. The Affordable Health Care Act. There's nothing affordable about the Affordable Health Care Act. Democrats always name these things, and these Republicans on the Hill aren't stupid. They constantly get these names out. What do they call it? The SR1, HR1. What do they call them? The voting. What? No, that's not what I'm talking about. They have a name that they call them. It's like the John Lewis bill, but it's not the John Lewis bill. It's some kind of fancy name that for a bill that doesn't do what it advertises it's going to do. That's my point.
To the name of Democrat titled bills, exactly.
Yeah. So hey, thanks for pulling my coattail on that, Roberts. Look, Frank, as we talk, you mentioned Buchanan, President Buchanan, this being the worst hiccup since Buchanan. It's interesting that you referenced Buchanan when what's his name, Panetta, whatever his name is, come on, oh God, Panetta.
Mm-hmm.
Panetta, this is what he had to say about this fiasco. And he really didn't, he didn't mince any words about it. But, Panetta is another one of those guys who has always kind of been out of the box, if you ask me, kind of half-ass, caught off guard, even when he worked for Nixon. People forget that Panetta was a Republican before he was a Democrat. Here's Panetta and what he had to say about Joe Biden's pullout.
In many ways, I think of John Kennedy and the Bay of Pigs. It unfolded quickly, and the president thought that everything would be fine, and that was not the case. But President Kennedy took responsibility for what took place, and I strongly recommend to President Biden that he take responsibility, admit the mistakes that were made. He's got to be. He has been, I think, truthful with the American people. He's got to continue to be very truthful.
Wow. Well, even Panetta called him out. Said, "Hey, dude, you got to be truthful." He's blaming everybody but himself.
And Charles, there's something else that's coming up that I don't think we can ignore any longer. Throughout the proud history of the United States, one thing has been consistent: the fact that our military has stayed out of politics. Now we're seeing a military with General Miley and Lloyd Austin at defense that is all about the politics. They're all about transgenderism in the military, woke goals, things of that sort. And this is what you're seeing, the ineptness of a military that is too political to tell the commander-in-chief that you've made a terrible mistake.
Well,
clearly, I think both Miley and the Secretary of Defense should have said to the president, look, you've got to, if you're going to withdraw, you got to get these people out of there first. This is a bad policy that you're doing.
But wait a minute. Let's be fair. Trump, when he cut this deal with the Taliban last year, he told these assholes, get out of Afghanistan. He told the civilians, get out of Afghanistan. We're pulling out. He told them that. They knew.
He also said the pullout was contingent upon the Taliban keeping their part of the bargain. They have not kept their part of the bargain.
Well, guess
there's
what?
There's something else too, Charles, that I think we have to look at carefully. For one of the first times in the Afghan war, we saw as they proceeded towards Kabul and towards the other cities, Kandahar, the Taliban come out of hiding. They came out into large groups that could be seen. Seems to me that if we had a President Trump or a competent military leadership, that would have been a great time to dump a couple of Moab bombs on them to weaken their position. So maybe this collapse didn't have to occur at all. Well, the reason the Afghan army retreated, the reason they fell apart, was that they believed they would get no support anymore from the United States. They felt that their own leadership,
Frank,
their own corrupt political leadership, went out of the country,
Frank,
and they felt naked and afraid.
Frank, I don't think that at all. That's who they are. They're not fighters. They don't care about Afghanistan, first of all, as we talked about last week. And it was really interesting that a guy that I hardly ever agree with, he's on MSNBC, one of the intelligence guys, black guy. Hardly ever agree with this guy, but he said, "Hey, I read a book that was written by a British author back in 1830s about Afghanistan. It hasn't changed. It's a country of tribes. These tribes, you have to understand that 90% of the Afghan army is illiterate. 90% of the Afghan army is illiterate. They're just there for a payday, dude. They're not there for Afghanistan. They're not there for a central government. They're not there for any of that. They have no allegiance. They don't care. They knew that we were supporting them. We had men out there supporting, training. They heard the planes and the choppers in the air. Now, that's not the reason they dropped guns and ran. They dropped guns and ran because the Taliban is serious. The Taliban is serious about taking about winning and about projecting their Islamic faith. They're very serious about that.
And of course, they'll be so serious that they'll deprive women and girls in that country or subject them to a lifetime of slavery and rape.
That's Islam, dude. That's Islam.
Yeah, certainly is. But I do think, again, going back to your main point, it is a nation of tribes for the most part, and the tribes will comply or do business with whoever seems to be the strongest at the moment. And unfortunately, when the United States projects weakness, that's when you're going to lose the support of the tribes. That's when you're going to lose the support of Afghan fighters.
Well, see, when we throw that term around, Afghan, what is Afghan? It doesn't really exist. What was the first thing the president of the country did? He got up and ran. He got up and left the country. The president of the country got up and left.
Not before he packed in a couple of boatloads of cash.
Well, his cash is already in France. His apartment, his luxurious apartment, is already in France. He probably has 200 or 300 million stuffed away. I mean, that's the way the American State Department, and the administration gave these warlords and these politicians millions of dollars. The question you have to ask yourself is, why isn't anyone held accountable? That's what I want to know. Why do these people think they can just give away our money? Barack Obama used to say this. Well, and Biden, same thing. We'll just give them. Like when Merkel, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, when Merkel came over here and visited Joe Biden, the checkbook's open. We had a very friendly meeting, friendlier than before, because Trump said you need to pay your fair share. Andrea?
And that's exactly right. And by the way, let's not forget at this juncture that when President Biden, in his first day of office, destroyed the Keystone XL pipeline, destroying thousands of good-paying union jobs, he said the reason was to protect the environment. And yet he went all ahead, full bore, and supported the Russian pipeline that goes from Russia eventually to Germany. What a travesty.
No, it's not a travesty. It's treasonous. And this is the thing that bothers me.
I'll accept that definition.
This is the thing that pisses me off about these people. If it were you and I, Frank, they would put our ass in jail. They would put us under the jail for the things that Joe Biden has done, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Hunter Biden. They can talk about Trump all they want. I always say, well, tell me something that he actually did that's illegal. Well, what about the Russian? I said, don't even go there with your dumb ass. That's how you have to talk to people these days, because they're so effing dumb. They want to still hold on to the Russian narrative,
collusion hoax,
even though everybody knows there's a Russian collusion hoax. And that's how they try to play you. So you spend 20 minutes talking about this bullshit and this lie, and you end up with they still come back the next week with the well, Trump was he was colluding with the Russians. I mean, time and time when you have this boy Obama, I'm calling him a boy. This boy Obama, with his punk ass, this boy Obama lets 5 Taliban leaders out of prison, out of Gitmo, for one traitor who they should have kept his ass right over there with the Taliban or ISIS or wherever the hell he went. He was not one. We don't leave anyone behind. This wasn't about leaving anyone behind. This guy was a deserter. It wasn't about leaving anyone behind. But see, that's the narrative that they run on people, and people actually go for this okie doke. They actually go for this. What does Barack Obama know about leaving anybody behind? That narrative is not the same. It's about a fighter who is next to you. It's about your comrade. This boy was a traitor. He was a deserter. How is he being left behind? And you know what? No one challenged it. Mitch McConnell sit up there with his fat dumb ass. This boy McCarthy with his dumb ass. We have Republicans who are nothing but pussies. I'm not even going to say wuss. They're pussies. And I'm tired of them, Frank. I'm tired. And Frank, that's why I'm getting ready to develop my own network. I'm not going to be depending on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or any of that. I'm go out and develop my own platform.
That would be a welcome addition. But, when you talk about disgraceful, how about the fact that when Biden, who, by the way, flew in from his home in Delaware to the White House, made a short and basically ridiculously scripted speech, and then left without answering a single question from the media, not one person in the media screamed in protest as the president walked away from the microphone. Talk about a wholly owned media.
You know what? I think they were in shock. I think they were in shock. That they just looked at him. He didn't walk away. Let's be clear. He did not walk away. He shuffled away like an old man in house slippers.
And by the way, where he shuffled to was not back to work in the White House. He shuffled away to continue his vacation, except this time at Camp David.
Well, hold on, Frank. Hold on.
And by the way, let's not forget at the same time that the president was on vacation during a week of some of the worst crises facing the United States in decades, his chief spokesman, Jen Psaki, was on vacation and couldn't be disturbed to be part of addressing the nation. What a travesty.
Yeah, but this is the deal. Frank, I think he flew in from Camp David. He'd flown Friday. He flew down to Camp David. I think he flew into camp from.
He
Camp
was
David
at Delaware. He was at Delaware before that, I believe. So he's not been at the White House, certainly not been at the helm. Of course, the question is, since he's been elected, we don't know exactly who is at the helm of this nation.
Well, it certainly isn't Kamala Harris.
We might be thankful for that. I think if you want to look at who's running the country,
who's
I
on
think
first?
the list of names.
Who's on second?
The list of,
who's in the White House? Who's in the executive office? Who's in the sit room? The
list of names, I think, includes Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, Jamal Bowman, and Cori Bush. Those are the people running the country right now. Because the people who have the titles of president, vice president, majority leader of the Senate, and speaker of the House are so intimidated by those buffoons that they will give them and do anything they want. People think they voted for Joe Biden. They voted for Biden. They got the squad.
Yeah. Well, I'm sitting here and it's just tickling me to death, man, to deal with this because I love it. I just can't believe that the American people are sitting here going, "Oh my God, we gave so much, we suffered so much." Hey, at the end of the day, folks, for those of you who don't understand, people who join the military want to participate and want to defend the country violently. So that's what they do. That's what they get paid to do. Oh, Jen Psaki's back. She said she briefs. The White House is briefing on Afghanistan while Biden is at Camp David. The White House is doing briefs. How about that? You must have made them do it, Frank.
That was quick, wasn't it?
Yeah, Jen is on right now. She's live. Hi, Jen. How are you? Shut up, Charles. And how the hell did you get in here? I'm a rat. I crawled in through the electrical wiring. But,
before our time is up, there's another story that we can't ignore today.
What's that?
And that is there is more and more evidence that the White House is first flying and then busing people around the country, people who are unvaccinated, untested, illegal immigrants, and spreading them throughout the United States, and then throws out hands and wonders, how is this COVID spreading again throughout the country? Well, White House, you're doing it. You're taking people from countries like Guatemala, where the vaccination rate is 1% or less, taking them across the American border, spreading them throughout the United States, and then expressing shock and surprise when you see a rise in the rate of COVID.
No, they want to lock us down, so we can't make money, so we can't.
I live in I live in broadcast from New York City. If I want to go into a restaurant effective today, I have to show my vaccination card. If I want to go into a movie theater, if I want to go to Yankee Stadium, I have to show my vaccination card. But illegal immigrants by the score, by the thousands of scores, are being bussed throughout and flown throughout the country and basically have more rights than an American citizen. Mark my words, by the way, this isn't going to stop when COVID fades into the background. If you listen to the rhetoric of the White House, they're saying there is a climate emergency. So when COVID is in the rearview mirror, if you want to fly, if you want to take that airplane to visit grandma 1,000 miles away, don't you know there's a climate emergency? You should ask the government's permission before you do that.
Or you have to have an emergency that is verified and validated by the government. See, this is the problem. We have these damn Democrats who sit up and they want to take orders and they want to, they're such sycophants. They have no minds. This is why I hate Democrats, because I don't care what the hell the fucking facts are. And I'm sorry for cussing so much today, but this is how angry I am today. They Democrats don't care what the facts are. They try to defend the nonsense.
Well, it also comes down to what Rahm Emanuel used to say, never waste a good crisis. And the corollary to that under the Biden administration is that if there's not a good crisis, then create one that we can use an excuse to take even more power.
Yeah, we say that, and we say that kind of cavalierly, but we really need to get serious about this power grab, because by Christmas, we may all have to check in with the government in order to fly anywhere we want to fly. That's a reality. That's a possibility.
Yeah, that is exactly right. And that's exactly the danger we're facing right now.
But this is the thing, Frank, for me. As I said I said during the week, and I've said up to this time, I don't care about Afghan women. I don't care what Afghan men do to Afghan women. Our soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen shouldn't be over there fighting for Afghan women. These men are going to treat their women like they want to. This is a cultural thing. No more than they should come over here and say, well, you can't get a divorce just because there's no such thing as a no-fault divorce. How would the American people feel? You will come in here and tell us, well, no-fault divorces, I think, have destroyed America. But you can't get a no-fault divorce. You have to have a reason, and the judge has to sign off on that reason for you to get a divorce. How do you think that would fly? And we go, we go over. Well, you can't hold hands, you two guys. You're, even though you've been doing it for centuries and giving up the booty, but we're men. And then with their women walking 5 paces behind them, hey, whatever. We don't need to get it. We are trying to westernize people who are basically illiterate, uneducated, diseased. And I don't know if you've ever sat by these people on the plane or in a building. Man, they stink to holy hell.
There's one factor that I think that we're going to find out a lot more about in the coming years when it comes to Afghanistan. Although the country itself appears to be poor, it is one of the wealthiest countries on earth when it comes to rare earth minerals. Those are the things you need for the civilian economy to build things like cell phones. But more importantly, it's one of the things that you need to build effective missiles, guidance systems, and things of that sort. China has been cozying up to the Taliban very considerably simply because it wants those rare earths. We are going to be at a substantial disadvantage when we lose them.
Well, we may not lose them, and the Taliban may work with us. They may surprise us. But you know what pisses me off, Frank? The bullets that we bought will be killing American soldiers and Marines. The bullets that we bought, the guns that we gave them. That's what pisses me off, dude.
Yeah, we left behind literally billions of dollars worth of military equipment. That's inexcusable. And by the way, it's not the first time. During the Obama administration, you might recall his precipitous withdrawal from Iraq left behind tons of equipment there. And of course, it was Obama's withdrawal from Iraq that led to the birth of power for ISIS.
Yeah, but and the thing that I wanted to talk about Obama letting this guy out, one of the guys that he let out was sitting in the president's chair yesterday, dude. He was sitting in the president's chair.
Yeah, you throw this in the novel, people would say it's too far-fetched, it can't really happen, but that's exactly what we're looking at.
It's either far out than a Tom Clancy novel. This is like Robert Ludlum, maybe. I mean, you cannot believe this stuff. It's amazing.
Now, we shall continue this next week, Charles.
Next week, my friend. Be good.
Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye. That's Frank Venucio, folks. We're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back.
And I'm here to talk to you about how you can take responsibility for your own health. CV Science products that can help you empower yourself against the COVID-19 virus are CV Acute and CV Defense. The Acute product is taken at an early onset of feelings of discomfort and works over 3 days to assist your immune system to fight off the virus. The second product is CV Defense, which is taken daily, and it helps to optimize the power of your immune system to fight off this virus. Recently on my program, I had an interview with Dr. Michael Lewis, who's been in public health for decades. I asked him about personal responsibility, and he said,
"You are responsible for your own health. Don't count on the government to provide you with a magic pill or a magic shot for your health. That is your personal responsibility."
If you want to empower yourself and take control of your health care, go to empoweryourself.info. That's empoweryourself.info and take care of your health care.
Hi, this is Charles Butler, the host of the radio show, The Reality Check with Charles Butler. At Asset Benefits, we provide our clients with the rates and benefits from over 20 top-rated life insurance companies. We make you informed decision makers about final expense, mortgage protection, and securing your family's financial stability with the loss of a loved one. Hey, don't wait. Pick up the phone and call 312-667-9111 for your free quote and evaluation. So don't leave your family in a financial crisis because of a failure to plan for financial needs. Please call us for a free analysis and quote at 312-667-9111. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back to The Reality Check with Charles Butler. Hey, we are here with the first-time guest, Mr. Jonathan Myers. He is a former Marine Corps intelligence officer, and I am just so proud of him, proud to be talking to him. I wish I could call him a brother in arms, but I was a naval officer. I should have been a Marine, but too many people were dying when it came time for me to sign up and go that way or commit to go that way. But Mr. Myers has had an outstanding career. We're going to ask him about a few of the things that he's done and been involved with. He has a great book out called American to the Core. American to the Core. Got a great write-up in Amazon. And without any further delays, we're going to bring Mr. Myers on. How you doing, Mr. Myers? How you doing, Jonathan?
Good. I'm great. Thanks for having me on from 6,000 miles away. And I'll just say that you don't need to worry about it because Marines, we are all used to hearing people's "I almost joined the Marines" story. We hear it from soldiers. We hear it from sailors. We hear it from Air Force. We hear it from everybody.
Hey, well, look, my brother was a Marine. So, I was a Navy. My brother was a Marine. But 1973, when I was in ROTC and it came, I had to make a choice to go Marine Corps or Navy. And I told my mom I passed the test and everything. They gave us, these fitness tests and all this stuff. And I was 1 or 2 and everything. And I was so proud. And I came home bragging, "Oh, I'm gonna be a Marine." My mother broke out and started crying. I'd never seen my mother cry. So that meant, and in my small community, we had lost 2 young men to the that were Marines in Vietnam, and neither one of them were on the ground more than 3 weeks. One guy was on the ground for 2 weeks. The other guy was on the ground for 3 weeks before they both died. But then again, there were like 8 other guys who were in the Marine Corps from our neighborhood. They did like 3 tours in combat. They weren't sitting back, in the supply group. They were out in the bush.
It's a combination of skill and luck, and Marines do die, and unfortunately, the predominance of them are the young ones between 18 and 24. The lance corporals and the corporals, those are the ones doing the fighting. So
yeah, and then I remember seeing this movie that it warms my heart. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. If they said, Charles, what movies would you want in your coffin? This would be one. It's called Rules of Engagement with Samuel Jackson and Tommy Lee Jones. And Tommy Lee Jones was representing Samuel Jackson for an incident where he supposed to kill some Arabs. And he said his challenge to the prosecuting attorney was, what was the time, the life expectancy of a second lieutenant stepping on the battlefield for the first time? And this guy, he guessed all around it. He said 18 seconds. 18 seconds. And that, I mean, man, you Marines are, I just love you. That's the bottom line. Like I said, I'm glad my brother was a Marine. But after my mom broke down and started crying, the Lord said, well, maybe she knows something you don't, son. So
you did all right. The Navy's good. That's the Navy and Marine Corps relationship is like two brothers. If you put us in a bar together,
we go stand back to back.
But if a soldier comes in and starts some trouble, then he's going to have a problem with the sailors and the Marines.
Oh, no
so
question.
it's kind of like brothers.
No question. We get you where you need to go. But look,
yes.
You've had some interesting assignments. I'm looking forward to reading your book. And you have a great booker and publicist in is it Ellen? I can't remember now. Shoot, I just drew a blank on my girl's name. Eden. Yeah, she's great. I've known Eden for 15 years. I knew her when she was like 20 years old. Okay. So, and she's quite a young woman now. But you were in the Corps for 28 years. So when you got out, were you a full bird, light bird?
No. So I was a Marine Corps intelligence officer for 28 years. I got out as a lieutenant colonel. Spent most of my time in the Marine Corps in the fleet from the tactical level up to the operational level. And then my last assignment, I was on the Joint Staff. I was the regional intelligence director for the director of operations, which is called the J5 on the Joint Staff. And in that role, I also supported the vice chairman and the chairman, including General Milley.
Okay.
When he showed up. So all of the Afghanistan intelligence that General Milley was getting through the director of planning was coming from us.
Okay.
So I'm well versed on the Afghanistan strategic situation and the events that have been unfolding for the last 4 days.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. But you have so many things we could talk about, like Bosnia, the Benghazi investigation. I always thought that was interesting because I always felt that they left those men. They didn't think those men were going to fight their way out of that situation and no one would ever know what happened. And they could tell their own narrative from Washington, D.C. But I'm glad they made it out. And then you talk about Snowden and, the investigation with Snowden leaking classified documents. And I'm sure your counter-Chinese activities across Africa has been interesting. I can just look at Africa, the few times I've been there in the last 7 or 8 years and, going to Nairobi, walking out of the Nairobi airport to get a cab, and it's a Chinaman driving the damn cab. Okay.
Yeah. The Chinese are totally crushing us in Africa. In fact, Africa was my wheelhouse. That's what I did for the latter part of my career. In fact, that's why I was called to the Joint Staff, was because of my Africa expertise. So I was the Africa desk officer there at the Joint Staff in the intelligence directorate. And I'm not kidding you when I say we compete with the Chinese in Africa. I don't mean just in the economic sense. I mean, we're literally competing there were times I would go, for example, to Tanzania to work, and they had asked us to come down and help them develop a Marine Corps. So I went down to do an assessment of the Tanzanian Navy and troops, and they had also invited the Chinese to train them, and they were going to decide which training they preferred. So there was no kidding Chinese.
So which training did they prefer?
Well, we trained up a company of Tanzanian Marines, but eventually they went with the Chinese, because the way the Chinese and the Russians work in Africa, especially the Chinese, they come in and they offer the Africans money, equipment, projects, and of course the Africans take it because it's all free, but it's not really free, because what it is a debt trap. So they have all the stuff they can't pay for, and then the Chinese say, well, you can't pay for it, so now we're going to take over the port operations, because it's part of the contract. We'll build this port, we'll give you all this military equipment, you pay us for it. Oh, you can't pay? Okay, well, it's in the contract that we now control it.
Now, Jonathan, they're hip to that. I'm dealing with some people in Tanzania, as you mentioned. I'm dealing with some people on a very high level in Tanzania, and we call it Tanzania. They call it Tanzania. What do they call it? Tanzania. And it's interesting, but at the end of the day, man, we've neglected Africa for years. And when I was in service, I always said that would be the next theater of conflict, because of the minerals that are there, of the natural resources that are there. And but we've ignored that, and I think largely we've ignored that because historically, this country has ignored that continent. I mean, Africa is a continent. It's not a country. That term African American, it just makes me sick every time I hear it, because Africa consists of 56 nations. And when you're coming to Africa on a boat, like I did in the Navy my first time over there, you can smell the continent like 8-9 days out at sea. I mean, you could actually smell the dirt. You can smell the continent. Unlike you don't come up on other countries or land masses that emanate that kind of strength. And Teddy Roosevelt wrote about it. I mean, it was really interesting that one of the first places I ever read that was Teddy Roosevelt had written about it when he went over to Africa to do his safari hunts and things. But you guys, in terms of Africa, and did you hear about Boko Haram trying to integrate about 1,000 Boko Haram soldiers back into society?
Okay, so you hit right on my expertise when I was on the Joint Staff. So when we defeated ISIS and Al Qaeda in Afghanistan and Syria and Iraq, what they did was ISIS core, it's called, so the main, like the headquarters of ISIS, started setting up franchises, if you will, all over Africa. Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, creating alliances with all these African terror groups, and Al-Qaeda in Maghreb. And so when I was there on the Joint Staff, there were now more terror attacks, Al-Qaeda terror attacks in Africa. Most Americans don't know this, because most Americans reading celebrity tweets and arguing about politics, they don't know this, but there were more Al-Qaeda attacks in Africa. Of course, over the last 96 hours, what has happened in Afghanistan is so devastating and damaging and significant, because now Al-Qaeda and ISIS have their training ground back. They have their sanctuary back in the Middle East, where they want to be.
Right.
So they'll continue to work Africa, but now the game's back on. We were really throttling them for a long time, but now they have freedom of movement and operation.
Right. And movement.
Yeah. So it's very significant. Most Americans are not understanding this. A lot of Americans don't follow international events, or they're like, Afghanistan is so far away. And of course, many Americans do care, and they've been devastated by what happened there. I'm not saying all Americans are that way, but what they don't understand is the significance of this. We have taken the war on terror, which I don't want to say it was winding down, but we're exerting some control over the war on terror in terms of terror groups, not terror states like Iran, but terror groups. We were kind of keeping that suppressed. With what happened under Biden over the last couple of days, the radical Islamic world is energized. To them, it's a victory, and they have beaten us, and now the game is on. So what we've done is extend this battle against terrorism to our children.
Okay.
And their children.
Okay.
The 10-year-olds walking around right now in the United States, it's very likely they'll be the ones putting on the uniforms and going to fight.
Well,
against radicalism.
I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with the American military, and I was fortunate enough to have gone to a university where we had some of the headiest military and government officials come through and lecture us about what was going on in Vietnam. And then I had an opportunity personally to meet about 6 different men who were prisoners at Hanoi Hilton, and and it was really just great to get all these different perspectives. But I remember, CNO, it was not Holloway. It was I can't come up with his name right now, but he made these drastic changes in the Navy. The CNO came to our unit, and he was talking about what we didn't do in Vietnam, that we fought Vietnam like a kiddie war with one hand behind our back. And they said, well, why don't you bomb the Russians bringing supply ships into Hanoi Harbor with guns and artillery? And they said, well, we don't want to kill any Russians. Well, they're there. Wait a minute. They're there. I mean, they're killing Americans with guns and ammunition that's being brought in by the Russians. It's just, I couldn't really wrap my mind around this. And then I would listen to some of the guys who were in my squadron who had flown in Vietnam. And, they talk about how they had to fly and drop bombs and attack targets and with one hand tied behind their back. They're flying over perfectly great targets to get to targets that seem to them insignificant,
Yeah, it's frustrating. It was a very political war. That's for sure.
Well, Johnson was not a general. He always wanted to be, and that's the thing. You can tell the difference in how wars are fought. Trump never tried to be commander in chief. Bush never tried to be either Bush tried to be commander in chief. They left that fighting to the generals. Clinton, he really didn't try to be a commander in chief. He had, a couple of conflicts, but he didn't try to be. But you had Johnson, who tried to be commander in chief. He was no damn commander in chief. And selecting targets. Barack Obama had Valerie Jarrett selecting targets and deciding tactical operations. I mean, what kind of crap is that? Who the hell is Valerie Jarrett? What military training did she have? But that's what we had to deal with, and we found ourselves in that lurch. But Trump came in and said, "Hey, listen, we stopped ISIS. They bombed ISIS all to hell." Barack Obama said, we'll never get rid of ISIS. They'll be with us forever.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's the historical dilemma, politicians being involved at the tactical level, which unfortunately has been the case in almost every conflict we've had since, World War II, arguably Korea.
Yeah, World War II and Korea, with Truman stepping in, trying to tell MacArthur, who spent his life in Asia, how he should fight the war. How crazy was that? If Truman had left MacArthur alone and he'd gone across the 38th parallel, we wouldn't have all this crap that's been going on in that part of Asia, in that part of the world. You just wouldn't have had it.
Yeah, for sure. And what's happened over the last couple of weeks really demonstrates the damage that has been caused by the rise of the permanent professional political class and political appointees that are not true natural leaders and don't have the inherent skills and abilities, or even business managing national security affairs. And this is the unfortunate result, what we're seeing unfold right now.
Well, Colonel, how long have you been out? How long have you retired? It's been since you retired, sir.
I retired on June 1st of 2020, so just over a year. And as you mentioned, I never really gave much of my background when you mentioned it, but it's true, and it's in my book. I was the OIC for the Benghazi response mission. So when the Benghazi attack happened, there was a mission being planned to go. Now, don't get me wrong. This would not have made a difference in the famous 13-hour battle with Mark Geist and all those guys, because we didn't have the time to get down there in time. But we had a mission to go down and reinforce the embassy in Benghazi and reinforce the embassy in Tripoli and secure the area in Benghazi as a branch mission to that. And in my book, I highlight exactly the difficulties I ran into with the State Department and Secretary Clinton in terms of what I was allowed to include in the plan. We had a pretty robust military plan.
Hillary did not want you to stop Benghazi. She did not want you to.
No. Don't misinterpret. Benghazi happened, and then the battle happened. This was after, the day after, a couple of days after, and we were trying to get down there and secure the embassy, primarily secure the embassy, and then also we made a branch plan to secure the Benghazi consulate. But we ran into a lot of difficulties with the State Department, with the politicians in terms of what we could bring and the imagery we could create with flying giant Osprey down there and landing armed tactical Marines. And, carrying weapons. And
Hillary Clinton is a person in Ace Patterson's book. He said when Hillary was first lady, they could not wear their uniforms in the White House. He carried the football for the president. He could not wear his uniform in the White House. Nobody could wear their uniforms in the White House. No one ever talks about this stuff. It's just amazing that it never came out during the campaign.
Yeah. Well, I've had this story. It's in my book. I've had it for years, obviously, 2012, but I was still in the military up until a year ago. So I was not at liberty to, put my stories in writing. But now they are. So I hope you'll get a chance to read it, because I go into a lot of detail there about our mission, our Benghazi mission.
Well, it's like I said, you talk about the book, and we got a few minutes here, and you said that it's not a combat book. It's a book about intelligence, counterintelligence, and you offer a no holds barred humor, sometimes emotional look behind the veil of secrecy of modern day national security, intelligence, and Marine Corps training and operations. And I tell you, it's just a privilege to have you on the show, man, and your service. I mean, and that's the thing about the military. And I tell all these young people who sign up to go that you'll do things in the military that you'll never get an opportunity to do anywhere else. I'll never be able to sit in a high performance jet aircraft as an old man, 68. That's not a decision that's going. If I wanted that job, it's not going to happen. I can sue all to holy hell, but physically, my body just couldn't take it.
Yeah, I mean, you're dead on. That's for sure. That is an accurate statement. Joining the military, joining the Marine Corps was the best thing I ever did. I grew up overseas. My parents were CIA agents, so I lived in several countries. But when I went back to the States for college, I thought, well, that's it. I'm back in the States for the rest of my life. But the Marine Corps took me all around the world several times again, for the next 28 years. So, and the things I saw and the things I got the opportunity to do were just amazing. So you're right on point with that.
Well, man, your family has just served the country. It's amazing. CIA types, huh? That's great.
Yeah, they both were. And, as you said, I pointed out my books. The reason I say my book is not a combat book is because everybody these days is putting out combat books about Iraq and Afghanistan. And a lot of people want to read, we launched this mission and we killed this many Taliban and this, this is what, but it's not that kind of book because I was an intelligence officer, I know it sounds not that exciting, but it actually is because an intelligence officer gets to serve with all the units, the grunts, the pilots, and
Well,
then
if you don't get it right, they don't know what they're walking into. If you're telling them they're engaging, if you tell them they're engaging 50, a group of 50, and they engage a group of 500, that's a big difference.
That is true. Yeah. You can definitely cause yourself a lot of trouble if you don't get it right. Yeah,
a lot of people can die. Yeah.
You hear the term intelligence failure so many times these days. People love to talk about intelligence failures, including with Afghanistan intelligence failure. The intelligence failure there is just that. I mean, if you ask any soldier or Marine that you know personally that works in Afghanistan on the grounds, a relative or a friend who served there, and say, would you trust your life to the Afghan army that you trained? Of course, across the board, they're going to say probably not. But as that information goes up the chain to the generals and the politicians, it gets changed to everything's great. They're ready to fight on their own. And, that's the failure. The failure is the political process where the troops on the ground see one thing, but the generals are briefing to the president another thing. And the president is telling the American public another thing. And then, oh my God, we're all surprised when this calamity unfolds.
Well, at the end of the day, everybody wants to come to America. I always say that Black Americans are the dumbest people I've ever witnessed. Talking about they want to go back to Africa. I'm like, you can take your ass back to Africa, but I've been to a number of countries in Africa. You can't even get drinking water outside of the tourist area. You don't have electricity, and you surely don't have any police. So, these people have no idea what it's like to live in a country like that. They have no idea what it's like to live in Guatemala or Honduras. These are countries that are basically backwards and lawless. And this Afghanistan piece, how could this was something that was created by the Brits. I think all the stands, the Kakistans, Uzbekistan, Turkestan, all these stands were created. And I used to talk about them, on my show. And people would go, Charles, what are the stands? And I'd go through them, right? They're like, how come we never heard them? Because they were all in the Soviet Union and they were all, USSR. And so they never really talked about them as separate nations or countries or whatever. But, Afghanistan's a group of tribes that were stuck together, kludged together, kludged.
Your statement about people in the States not appreciating and talking about Africa, I've been to 37 countries in Africa. And the thing I found most amazing about Africans, especially West Africans, is how happy they are. They're just the happiest people and the friendliest people. They have a lot of conflict there with each other, but when you're visiting as an outsider, they're the happiest people, and they love America, and they love Americans.
They love America.
And there's nothing I heard more from West Africans than, but they would always ask me is, when are you coming here? When are the Americans coming? When are you bringing, your businesses and tourists and the traveling?
No,
because they don't like the Chinese.
Yeah, they don't. But I tell you one thing, I have this thing that I'm writing about in the book I'm putting together. And when these people talk about they're African American, I go, what African country ever offered you a passport or citizenship? Not one. So don't talk about being an African American. That you're not. You're a Black American. We built this country, and you could talk about slavery all you want, but I tell you one thing: I'm glad my ancestors made the final passage and lived through slavery and Jim Crow and all of that stuff. And like I tell people all the time, my anger about America is not so much what happened to me, and it's happened to me in terms of race, because it's bad, but it wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad as what happened to my father. I couldn't imagine going off to fight for somebody else's freedom and coming home, and the people that I fought against are sitting in an air-conditioned train car, and I'm sitting in a raggedy-ass Negro car because I'm Black in my uniform. I just couldn't when my dad was telling me this stuff, he didn't tell me this stuff until I was already in the military and I'd gotten old. Up until that, it was the Navy is great. Our country is great. I'm like, Dad, why didn't you tell me about these things? He said, well, that's just the way it was.
It was an unfortunate.
Yeah,
definitely.
We had a guy who was a guy named Johnson, won the Congressional Medal of Honor. Came home to Detroit. They gave him a parade, marched him around, and the sumbitch blew his brains out because nobody would give him a job. He couldn't even get a job at Ford Motor Plant, believe it or not.
Actually, I know who you're talking about. Army soldier.
Yep.
Johnson won the Medal of Honor in Vietnam for saving a lot of members of his unit, both black and white.
Yep.
And fought like a maniac.
Yep.
And killed an unbelievable number of NVA troops. Came home, got treated poorly over years and years.
Right.
There was addiction issues involved, of course, as there always is when somebody's having difficulties, as there typically is when people are having difficulties like that. He goes to rob a liquor store.
Right.
And the owner shoots him. But then it turns out afterwards that the reason the Medal of Honor winner went to rob the liquor store was to get the guy to shoot him.
Exactly.
Right. This is the guy you're talking about, right, in Detroit.
Yep. His brother-in-law and I worked as busboys. I was in the 11th grade. Never forget it as long as I live. Shot me to death. He said, man, he couldn't get a job. He couldn't get a job anywhere.
So if I recall, he went in and robbed the store, but he didn't have any ammo or something like that.
He told the guy to shoot me. Shoot me.
Yeah. Really sad story.
Yeah. Hey, man, but that's not the only one. Dave Durson, football player, Notre Dame, same deal.
Yeah. In fact, that brings up a point with all the stuff going on in Afghanistan. My wife was talking to me tonight that Facebook is just flooded with buddy checks, which is an unfortunate.
What's a buddy? Oh, people checking on.
Yeah, people checking on buddies because everything that's gone down in Afghanistan is really hard on a lot of these Afghanistan veterans. So
I'm sure
Facebook is flooded with buddy checks right now.
Well, I hope that they weather it. I hope that they don't do anything drastic. I hope the good Lord watches over them. I tell you, it's just I look at what we go through and these politicians, and I tell you, somebody needs to be held accountable. That's all I'm saying. Someone needs to be held accountable.
Yeah.
So let it play out. So you said you were 6,000 miles away. Can you tell us where you are? Are you in hiding or what?
No. I'm in Germany. I retired, but my wife took a position here as a DoD civilian. So we're living here now.
Okay.
We've been here I've been here for just over a year. My family's been here a year and a half. I had to take some time to finish up on the joint staff.
Okay. Good. Well, man, I tell you, it was, like I said, it was an honor to have you on today. Appreciate it. Hope you come back sometime soon.
Okay. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate it.
Well, yeah, and tell Ellen that miss her, and she did a good job. I appreciate it.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care now.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, Jonathan Myers. Woo, boy, I tell you, we're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back.
America's Cannabis Conversation, and I'm here to talk to you about how you can take responsibility for your own health. CV Science products that can help you empower yourself against the COVID-19 virus are CV Acute and CV Defense. The Acute product is taken at an early onset of feelings of discomfort and works over 3 days to assist your immune system to fight off the virus. The second product is CV Defense, which is taken daily, and it helps to optimize the power of your immune system to fight off this virus. Recently on my program, I had an interview with Dr. Michael Lewis, who's been in public health for decades. I asked him about personal responsibility, and he said,
you are responsible for your own health. Don't count on the government to provide you with a magic pill or a magic shot for your health. That is your personal responsibility.
If you want to empower yourself and take control of your healthcare, go to empoweryourself.info. That's empoweryourself.info and take care of your healthcare.
Here at this meeting and earlier at the G7, you've said several times that America is back at allies' side. But a lot of those allies are themselves pretty rattled by what happened on January 6th, an attempted overturn.
Well, I'm sorry, I would have been gone. Thank you guys for tuning in. I was just going to say I'm getting ready to get gone, and I'm going to watch this State Department update on Afghanistan, and make sure that I stay up on top of it. But you guys, thanks for tuning in. Have your friends, family tune in. We'll keep it clean for the most part. But take care. Thanks again, and I'll be talking to you.